Hi, Trace here. This episode acknowledges the fact that humans interact romantically. You know, like with mouths and things. Yeah, I know it's icky, buddy. I know, but you might like it someday. But for now, grown-ups, just know your smalls and you know, use your best judgment.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate, a show where we take questions from you, the listeners, or each other, or special guests, and then we go to our little internet box and we type them in, and then we read a bunch, and then we distill it down to an interesting, hopefully 30-minute long segment of facts and stories to share with each other. I am one of those fact/story sharers, Julian Huguet.
Like you're wet right now?
I'm changing it up. I'm trying a new name pronunciation.
I feel like there was a little judgment there when you were like very specific about the amount of time that we talk, because I always go over the time.
No, that's not it. That's not. I'm not throwing shade. I'm hoping that we have enough interesting things to share. I'm hoping it doesn't take like only 10 minutes and we're like, well, that's it. Hope you have a good rest of your commute in silence. I don't know.
I'm Trace Dominguez, the other story sharer and wet person, I guess, depending on how you think about it. Yeah. How you been, Julian?
I was almost going to say I'm wet, but ooh, glad you have that little disclaimer at the top. No, I'm good. I'm fine. It's been a while since I've gotten to podcast with you, and I'm excited to be like back doing it.
Yeah, it was cool. The Marin episode was awesome. I love not being on the show because then I get to listen to it like a listener. Mm-hmm. And you know what? This show's kind of okay. Like 4.5, 5 stars, you know? Depending on what podcast platform you're on.
Yeah. But and who's reviewing.
Yeah. But yeah, I have the first question this week, so I'll just jump right into it from Jenn R. And they ask, how long have people been kissing kids' boo-boos? And does it work?
Oh.
And she elaborated when I emailed her back to say we're going to pick your question. And she said, I'm so glad that you'd like to do my question. I only started listening a little while ago, but I love the podcast and already caught up on the last few episodes. Thank you, Jenn. I hope you're listening right now. As a mom of 2 kids, ages 2 and 9, I've been kissing their boo-boos for many years. My 2-year-old daughter asked me to kiss her injury the other day while I was listening to the podcast, and it inspired my question. In particular, I was wondering about the practice, how long parents have been doing it, and if it's done around the world. I was also wondering if it actually makes the children feel better, and it is a placebo effect or some kind of greater psychological effect. Jenn, you fit right in. You started answering your own question when we asked you for more information, so that's perfect.
Yeah,
great
you
job.
know how this works.
Julian.
Yes.
What was your first kiss?
Oh, like from not my parents, I assume you mean, right? Like in context
I mean,
of
sure.
this.
I don't, no judgment.
I mean, I assume my first, like, any sort of kiss when I was a baby was from, like, my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
My first kiss as, like, a romantic kiss? I was behind the gym on senior night at my high school.
Yeah?
Do I want to get into this? I don't know.
I don't know. Do you? I'm asking you.
I don't know if I do.
My first kiss was a girl named Liz. She had just driven me back to my parents' house, and because she drove on our first date, and she and I shared a little kiss in the front yard, and it was cute.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was real cute.
Emo music was playing.
No, it was completely silent.
Oh, I'm describing mine again.
Got it. You're back to the gym.
This is 2007, so.
It was just all pop punk. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you get it.
Were you saying that you were a skater boy and that she said, see you later, boy?
See you later, boy. Yeah. That was the first person I dated. I actually asked her out on stage during, like, an award ceremony for people who were getting, like, scholarships and awards and stuff. It was the nerdiest start to a relationship possible. It was fun.
Are you Max from a Goof Troop? I'm seeing you're Powerline, aren't
I am.
You pretend
Secretly.
to be Powerline just so you could ask people out. Anyway, so I bring this up because you nailed it right out of the gate. There are different types of kisses. There's familial kisses, and then there's like romantic/sexual kissing. So the first time your parent kissed you, like, none of us have any memory of that. That's like, I vaguely remember even being kissed by my mom and dad, like, as a child. Like, I don't really have any specific memories of that. I don't know if you do, but I more remember when it's like some aunt wanted to kiss me and I didn't want to be kissed when I was like a kid. Like, I remember that more than I remember my own parents kissing my injuries or whatever. But it's definitely a thing that happens. But because it's so ubiquitous, it's actually difficult to get historical information about. It's like something that's done by so many people, so many places, and yet apparently they didn't get written down a lot, which I thought was kind of neat. So I wanted to start by thinking about what kissing boo-boos actually is, right? What do you think of when I say, like, oh, when you kiss somebody's injury, you are doing X?
I guess I'd look at this from, like, either my perspective as a child or my perspective as an adult. As a child, when I got hurt, and you know, mom would kiss it and make it better. To me, there was like something magical happening, right? There was like, I'm injured, but I'm going to my caregiver that I like, who seems to know everything and like has the situation under control. And she says she's going to give the spot that has an ouchie a little kiss. And therefore, because she's doing that and I trust her, it will be better. But as an adult, I'm like, I'm lying to this child. I'm gonna put my face on here and just try not to infect this injury. This little human I made is so dumb, it thinks a little smooch is gonna actually do anything to that scrape. So, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I mean, I thought of that where, like, it is this, like, magic feeling idea. But I also thought of, like, animals that lick their wounds. I was like, why do we do this? Like, trying to figure out why. And that was the first thing I thought of, was like, so dogs and cats and some primates, mice, horses, which I didn't know, and also ants all use their mouth parts, their tongues and stuff to clean injuries on other members of their species. Christy Flynn, a veterinarian and animal behavior expert at the University of Minnesota, told Live Science, quote, licking can remove debris such as dirt or bits of stray skin from a wound while helping to alleviate soreness. Plus, some animals, this is not part of her quote, but some animals' saliva, including humans', have growth-promoting and healing factors for tissues and nerves, which I thought was kind of neat. Also antibacterial properties. So there's some like, okay, licking your wound, you know, also a phrase in English, like I'm licking my wounds. There might be some connection there, I thought, but licking is not kissing, right? Like, I think we can all agree that those are pretty different behaviors. Oh, are they? Have I been doing it wrong? I mean, I texted Katie about it, and she didn't want to. She said she took the fifth on this one. So I see why that first relationship I had with the make out behind the gym didn't last very long. All tongue, baby, all tongue. That's what they call it. They call me all tongue Hugwet. That's why I'm Hugwet. Hugwet. That was your nickname. For everybody was like, oh, don't kiss Julian Hugwet. Ew. So, yes, it is a different behavior, although, you know, there are ways of doing it. In France. Yeah. So where did kissing come from in general, right? So licking wounds is something animals do. So what about humans? If we're kissing our wounds, we have to figure out what kissing is and where it comes from. What kissing is, I think I don't have to define, hopefully, but just in case, you know, there's somebody in the audience, it's when you put your mouth parts, your lips specifically, onto another person. Like, I don't know. It's when you and another human form one long tube that has buttholes on both ends. Wow. Yeah, you never thought of it that way, did you? I'm just... Wow, I'm going to think about that, I think, for the rest of the day. So the oldest evidence of kissing... Or you skate right. How do I just jump right back into this? Wow. Gonna keep right on going. Just need to take a second. The oldest evidence that we have of kissing used to be in India, but recently they discovered a Mesopotamian tablet for 2500 BCE, about 4,500 years ago, of two people in an embrace, smooching. And people knew that there was kissing in existence. Like, historians knew that
kissing happened. And they actually knew that this tablet was around too, but they just hadn't really talked about it or like documented it because they're like, look, everybody knows. And then they were like, wait, people don't know? Okay, maybe we should document this. They knew that there was smooching, but romantic kissing is way more interesting to talk about. So what I said about like they didn't write it down, but they did write down all these romantic things, I think makes a lot of sense. There's references to kissing in ancient Akkadian, which is a Semitic language precursor to Hebrew and Arabic, all before 2500 BCE. And then as the general population started to become more literate and being able to describe their lives more, we get a lot of references to romantic kissing. And of course, you know, kisses paired with like Zeusy-goosey kind of things, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? But again, all of that is romantic. So you mentioned before that you have bacteria in your mouth?
Yes. I mean, not just me. I don't want you to single me out like we all do.
No, just really? I thought it was just you.
Just me. I'm the only one.
I found a study that took stock of the bacteria in the human mouth and gave, it's actually really interesting. They gave one member of a romantic couple a specific probiotic yogurt drink. Then they did saliva samples from both people in the couple after and before they kissed.
Right.
And they got 80 million of the bacteria from the yogurt drink in the non-drinker's mouth after the kissing.
80 million?
80 million bacteria.
Did the study specify, like, the type of smooch? Was it like a little peck? Was it like a full, like, you know, French session? Or was
I'd have to look.
Is it like one of them spat in the other's mouth? Because it kind of sounds like that.
Let me see. 80 million. No, I don't have it pulled up.
We don't have the exact methodology.
I don't have it pulled up immediately.
It was probably a fairly normal kiss.
I would think a normal
I imagine
tongue in, not tongue out kind of
not a
kiss.
full sloppy, like, we're 18 and this is all new, but I read about this in Cosmopolitan, like, kiss attempt.
I saw it on TikTok, I think is what you mean with the teens these days. But
do they not read Cosmopolitan magazine anymore?
I think they do.
I'm going to have to cancel my subscription. That's how I was staying up to date.
With the teens? I was staying up to date with Teen Vogue, but it turns out I was just learning about heady political drama.
Yeah, apparently that's the Center for Journalistic Integrity now. It's a weird time to be alive. Anyway, go on.
2025. So 80 million sounds like a lot, but there's like 100 million to a billion bacteria in every drop of saliva.
Oh.
So like 80 million's not actually that many.
No.
But there is a lot of stuff in our mouth that can tell us a lot about how kissing works.
I've just had a thought where it's like you could basically quantify how passionate the kiss is by the bacterial exchange.
That was just an 80 kiss. That was an 80 million.
That was an 80 miller.
Yo, that was like 5 billion. You're like,
at least a billy.
Did you go out with Hugh Gwet last night? Watch it. His baseline is a 10 billion kiss. That's all he does.
10 billion backies.
He's like, you're getting like drops of saliva every time.
So much staphylococcus going back and forth.
Yes! Okay, so that's what I was going to say. There's other stuff that lives in our mouth, and we can use that other stuff to trace some of the history of kissing. So researchers followed viruses like herpes simplex 1, which is an oral virus, Epstein-Barr, and bacteria like Methanobrevibacter oralis, an oral bacteria. And the researchers followed their lineage and found that ancient Neanderthals and ancient humans may have played tonsil hockey like 100,000 years ago. So it could be that kissing is actually not even just old, but like prehistoric old. Like before we were even humans, we might have been kissing each other, which is kind of cool, actually.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of this comes from a Siam interview with Truls Punk Arbul, and a Syriologist at the University of Copenhagen. So I called him to ask about kissing.
You did journalism.
Yeah, and actually I emailed the co-author of his paper as well about kissing. And that's Dr. Sophie Lund Rasmussen with the University of Oxford. Maybe you've heard of it, as well as Aalborg University. Turns out they're together. They're partners. And they were co-authors of this kissing paper. So I was like, this is going to be great. Sophie and Truls answered and talked a little bit about kissing. Let me play you a clip.
a behavior has to serve a certain purpose for it to stick around and remain part of our behavioral repertoire. What the scientists can agree on is that sexual romantic kissing, it's a way of strengthening the pair bonding, the feeling of belonging together, the intimacy between couples, of course, and strengthening that. And then it's also suggested that it's a way of assessing your partner's quality, because there are certain different chemical cues that you exchange while kissing. This could, for example, be a very bad breath. I mean, most people remember when they've kissed somebody who had a very bad breath, right? And this could indicate poor quality of the partner. A bad breath could indicate somebody had a really bad lunch, but it could also indicate poor dental health, disease of some sort. I'm a type 1 diabetic, for example, and if my blood sugar gets too high, I start to produce ketones, and this smells really bad in the breath.
What?
Right? So it might be that kissing, not just kissing boo-boos, but kissing in general was a behavior that we evolved in part to assess partner quality.
Now that kiss behind the gym that led to a very short-lived relationship is making me sad again.
Yeah, well, emo sad, like pop punk sad.
Yeah.
But you just go back inside the gym and do that like flailing, kind of dancing in the middle and, full Mon Mothma, and I think it'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I think dancing is also used to assess partner quality, and that's making me more sad.
Yeah, that's also true. That's definitely a thing that happens. So kissing might mean something, although it's not really documented as to why we did it. But I did ask about the historical kissing and both in kissing for familial kissing and for romantic kissing. Because though their paper was focused more on romantic, they did talk a little bit about historical. So you're going to hear me ask them. Is there any evidence of non-romantic, like familial interactions in this way in the historical record?
Yeah, there definitely are. First and foremost, we do have of pictorial evidence where you see a mother calming a child when they're being deported from a city. So it's not happy circumstances, but here you can definitely see the mother calming the child while kissing it. We have no way really of knowing if this kind of kissing always on the mouth though, but we definitely know that parents would kiss their children to show affection. That is mentioned in some contexts. It's a bit difficult to date it, and it's definitely not as old as the sexual kiss in the historical sources. That doesn't mean, of course, the behavior is probably just as old, if not older.
Yeah, because it's important to remember our paper describes perhaps the earliest written evidence of kissing, but we're not saying that people haven't kissed before that. It's just the earliest documentation for this. When we see the behavior in the bonobos, for example, that they also kiss, it could indicate that kissing has been around for ages and ages.
I mean, that makes sense. I would be hard-pressed to believe that writing was invented before the romantic kiss or even the familial kiss. Also, shout out to bonobos. Those guys are freaks.
They are freaky and wow.
Solve everything through sex, so it doesn't surprise me that they also make out. So
Yeah. Actually, there is a controversial study I found that says kissing could come from primate grooming rituals. So to kind of go back to it being older than history, great apes like chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, orangutans all use their lips to suck parasites off of the skin during ritualistic grooming. And the anthropologists of this study said that maybe this is a holdover into human kissing. And also, I think makes a lot more sense when we're thinking about Jenn's kissing an injury, right? Like if you might have this bug in your skin and you're trying to get it off and somebody takes their lips and puts it on your skin to like pull off a bug, like maybe, but other researchers were like, no way. But that's a fun debate, like at least we're not kissing each other's feet all the time. Hey, science, because we're debating. Exchange of ideas.
Just throwing it out there, just seeing if you're interested.
Yeah.
If I,
what's up? Yes, no, maybe.
You're cool with me. We'll circle back on that. We'll circle
back. I'll send you a message. Please don't leave it unread. But that doesn't mean it's universal. Just because we see some great apes do it, not all other kind of apes or even monkeys and things do this. The Brazilian capuchin monkey, the one you see in all the movies that wears a diaper and stuff, like in the Pirates of the Caribbean and whatever, like the little monkey, they do not kiss. When they like each other, they poke each other in the eyes. So maybe we try that?
Wow. That sounds like unhealthy ways of showing affection, you know? When they told you, like, oh, they're just picking on you because they like you. I don't like that. I don't think we should encourage that, especially with these little monkeys.
I did once. I got a date because I told a girl that when she looked at me, her pupils dilated, which is how I knew she had a crush on me, because your pupils dilate when you look at something that you really like.
Wow.
Definitely got a date out of that.
Wow. That's smooth as hell.
Yeah, but when I say it out loud, it's very cringe.
No. I mean, it'd work on me. It was like, if I was approached and they were like, I know you're into me because I can tell from these physiological events that I'm like, oh, maybe I am. I was staring at the TV above their head because it's got the hockey game on, but I'm...
Yeah, well, maybe. Then Jenn also asked if kissing is universal in human behavior. And so I emailed Dr. Katharina Laporte, a cultural anthropologist and professor at the Department of Anthropology, Texas A&M. And she wrote me back and said, in Kenya, generally, in the face of an injury-induced tantrum for children, they forcefully smack the offending thing, whether the door that you bump your head on or like the chair that you trip over or like whatever, you stub your toe on something. And they smack it and say, mbaya, which means bad. So they punish the thing that hurt their kid to make the kid feel better. I looked everywhere for any evidence of this. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but I couldn't corroborate it, but that's still hilarious. And then she goes on to say maybe they're restoring some kind of justice in the world by yelling at this inanimate object that hurt their little one, or maybe they're just focusing the crying child's attention somewhere else. And that kind of hit a little ding for me about kissing the boo-boos, right? Parents who are soothing their child, Laporte goes on to say, citing a Live Science and NBC News piece, that the chemistry of the parent-child relationship is really important. Parents who soothe their children reduce their stress, calming hormones are released that can contribute to kind of de-inflammation. A touch from someone you love, like a parent, can cause oxytocin release, which is a bonding and soothing hormone. And these also have pain-fighting benefits. So you could hug somebody, kiss somebody, caress somebody, and it slows your heart rate and actually does make you feel better. So it's not even just a placebo, it's chemistry, it's pheromones, which is really interesting. There was a study in 2011 in pain research and management in Canada. They were looking at the influences of maternal soothing behavior to try and find commonalities. To see if this is a universal behavior, I figured this might be a good study to read. They were looking at vaccination and immunization of infants with 80 different parents. So they would give them a shot, which babies often get, anything from vitamin K to MMR and, other shots to kind of build up their immune systems. And the parents would then soothe their kid. And, I've gone through this process myself when we got our own infant vaccinated, and they tell you, like, hold them. Actually, when they're very young, they say, like, breastfeed them. Obviously, I didn't do that, but you get the point.
Right.
And they had these 80 parents from different cultures. Individualist cultures, like you would find in European and North American cultures, some Asian cultures, and then collectivist cultures, which you would find in like West Africa, Latin America, South America, and other places as well. And so they wanted to see if these different cultural groups soothed their kids in the same way, and it turns out they do, which is kind of neat. My pediatrician in LA actually gave us this pamphlet to read that was like, babies crying can mean lots of different things. It doesn't mean that the kid is in pain or anything. It might just mean that they're sad or, and cold doesn't cause sickness, which is really interesting. And they talked about this as well in the study, where different cultures will believe, oh, well, we can't have our baby be cold because cold means that they will get the flu and die. Whereas Northern European babies are like, yeah, cold is the baseline here and it doesn't cause sickness. However, maybe this other thing, so every culture kind of comes at these things differently, but it turns out the conclusion was, quote, similarities were more prominent than differences. Parents used affection, touching, holding, rocking, vocalizing, caretaking, distraction, feeding, presenting face, and pacifying. So kind of neat.
Yeah. Speaking again to what we brought up a few times, is like, we're all human, like we have cultural differences, but there's a lot more commonality than you might think.
Yeah, even though we all kind of come at the world a little differently. So kissing to soothe injuries, not commonly studied, not easy to find a lot of information on, and not found often in the historical record, but based on things like bacteria, viruses, and ancient writings, we can determine that kissing, at least romantically, has happened for a long, long time. And so familial kissing has probably happened for even longer. Even before modern times, before we were even Homo sapiens, back when we were some ancient version of a human antecedent, there were likely kissings. But before we wrap up, Julian, open up a tab in your browser.
Sure.
And search, please, for kissing boo-boos study. And then click, I'm feeling lucky or whatever, the first result. Tell me what the first result is.
Okay. Maternal kisses are not effective in alleviating minor childhood injuries, parentheses, boo-boos, a randomized, controlled, and blinded study.
Right. This is a 2015 study that I also found that in the study, they write 943 maternal-toddler pairs were studied and found that there was no difference in toddler discomfort regardless of kissing or not on a boo-boo. The thing is, this study is fake. It's a parody. It's a satirical published paper. Yeah. It's in the journal Science, I think. But if you click into it.
Study of maternal and child kissing, SMAC. Working group.
Right. And see, I love that you immediately picked that out. Right. So this is why science communication exists and why Julian and I have jobs and why you should never trust someone who cites a study in a TikTok or in a video or in a podcast without having some background in reading studies and telling you where they got their study.
Right.
Because this study is fake and you would know that if you were a science communicator because there are lots of little clues when you read it.
Yeah.
There is no giant label that says, parody or satire. It's not published on the Onion version of a scientific study place. It is published in a real scientific paper. Scientists have senses of humor too, and then in 2015 they published this really just for other scientists as a joke. And yeah, the SMAC study of maternal and child kissing working group is one hint that this is fake. There are also no other authors. Authors are always listed for citation purposes. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have that. The study, if you read it, is extremely problematic because it says that they induced injury in children.
They hit children, yeah.
They hit children, which is totally unethical. And then as a parent, I'm telling you, this part makes no sense, where it says they asked the toddler to rank their pain on a scale of 1 to 5, which is hilariously impossible to get a toddler to do. But again, this is why science communication exists. If you Google this, you will see this paper. Go read it and see if you can tell that it's fake, because there are a lot of other little clues. And scientists are allowed to have senses of humor. The problem is people who are bad actors. This is about something kind of silly, like kissing a boo-boo. But imagine if this was about climate change or eugenics or, I don't know, government-funded research. And people were bad actors and taking this and using it to, get their agendas across.
Right.
Totally a thing that does happen in real scientific studies with real papers of people who either misread them or read part of them or cherry pick them to get their point across that they want to make, as opposed to the point the science is trying to make, which is usually no point at all. It's just more information in a field. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I wanted to get on a soapbox for a minute and talk about why our jobs are important.
I appreciate that. And this is great. And, we do live in a day and age, especially now with AI, where people are just generating recommendations that are citing papers that do not exist.
It happened. The head of Health and Human Services literally just did this.
Yep.
In an official capacity, citing papers that do not exist that supported the crazy crackpot opinion that they were trying to put out there.
Because they told a LLM, write me an announcement citing scientific papers that support the conclusion that I want to draw. Yeah.
And there were none. So they just made some up.
Made it up.
So anyway, my point is, not everything has a definitive answer. Jenn wanted to know how long we've been doing this. Forever. and then some. Does it help the kid? Absolutely. But the thing that helps the kid is not the kissing part, although, licking the wounds, I don't recommend it. There are healing factors in our saliva. Again, I don't recommend it. I'm not a doctor. But just kissing, holding, cuddling, soothing is going to make your kid feel better. It's just chemistry. It's not just placebos. But also, it will distract them from their pain. When my kid hurts himself, the shock is just as big a deal, if not more big a deal, than the thing that was injured, right? You fall down, maybe you're not scraped, maybe you're a little scraped, you're 3 years old, you don't know what just happened, but your parent, exactly like Julian said right at the beginning of this answer, that feeling of the adult magically, quote unquote, coming over and just making you feel better is actually the most important part of that interaction. What we say to my kid is we pick him up, we cuddle him and we say, are you hurt or scared? And I would say 8 out of 10 times he says scared. Because even though they fall down, they're pretty resilient. It's just scary when physics doesn't go your way,
right?
Just generally.
I think about this a lot, like why little kids' emotions swing so wildly, because from 1 minute to the next, right, they can be high highs, low lows. I'm not a child psychologist or anything, but like my personal pet idea is like when you're a little kid, like a lot of the things you're experiencing are new and therefore they're like the most extreme you have ever felt.
Yeah.
Like, any pain you feel, you're like, wow, this is literally the most I've ever hurt.
This is the farthest from home I've ever been.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything to that, but I always think that's funny. I always try and have a little grace with children because of that, because they can can be so much, and you have to be so understanding of like what it's like to be them.
Yeah. They've never experienced like pain in that part of their body before or in that way, or they never had fallen down like that, or they've fallen down twice. That's still a pretty big deal. And so, what we do with our kid, and I'm not a child psychologist, but I think we did a pretty good job, is we ask him if he's hurt or scared. We comfort him. We never tell him that he is okay. We don't say, you're okay, unless he says he's scared and doesn't know what's happening. And then we're like, we're all okay. Nothing's going to happen. If we don't know if he's hurt, we don't tell him he's not hurt. Because that's like gaslighting a toddler.
Yeah, gaslight a toddler.
Which, by the way, gaslighting toddlers is a great band name. It's such a good band name. Gaslighting toddlers. Oh my God. I feel like they're bowler caps. They're wearing bowler caps. They got like
It's a Clockwork Orange, I think.
Yeah. That's what I'm feeling out of the gaslighting toddlers. Yeah, the kissing part is really just a distraction for the parent to be able to do. We magically know that it's going to be okay, which probably does feel like magic to somebody who's never fallen down before, being like, wait, I'm going to not hurt forever? What? No, you're going to be okay. Yeah. It'll be fine. We can get through it together. Kids are just rational humans. They just don't have the tools we have yet. Dismissing their pain and telling them they're fine, that's confusing. But kissing them and hugging them and telling them we're going to be fine is good. Nice. So thanks for your question, Jen. Let's take a quick break and come back with Julian's question. Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh, God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
We think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out. Thank you. Thank you. That feels better.
You feel better now?
I do. I was
scared. You want me to scratch your back or like give you a little hug?
I'm ready to answer my question now.
Okay, good. Okay, get out there, Slugger. You got this.
Dad.
So what was your question this week, Julian?
Well, Trace/Dad, my question comes from Trevor, who is actually our poll winner over on our Patreon. Woohoo!
Good job, Trevor.
We didn't plan this. This was just going to be, poll winner question gets answered episode. And by coinky dink, it's quite closely related to yours about kissing boo-boos. The question from
really?
Trevor is, do animals get the placebo effect?
Oh, that is related, but kind of not, but also...
Kind of not.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, you can see the parallels. It's funny how that worked out.
Yeah, wow.
Trevor elaborates. He says, hello both / all three halves of the show, which A+ for either... I'm not sure if he's anticipating a guest or including Kyle, but just love it. Thanks, Trev.
Porque no los dos,
He goes on to say, my wife is pregnant, and I was lying awake thinking about a tidbit I had picked up about how human births are so complicated that midwifery likely evolved before modern humans did. And then I thought that maybe the placebo effect evolved because ancient human species received treatment millennia before we knew how to treat most things. And then I thought, well, that hypothesis probably wouldn't hold up if other animals also experienced the placebo effect. Hopefully that's not too long an explanation. Thank you all. Trevor from Indiana.
Trevor has asked several questions on this show at this point. So even the listeners, in that he's a poll winner, because we put people, except for Hannah, a couple episodes ago.
Except for
where we just made a huge mistake.
Double Banana Hannah.
Yeah, Double Banana Hannah. I really hope you enjoyed your custom episode.
Artisanal podcast.
Artisanal. Bespoke.
For individuals.
But yeah, we always try and poll people that we've seen before and make sure that those questions get put through the ringer. And Trevor just keeps doing bangers.
Yeah, it's
That's
a great
so cool
question as soon as you hear it. But it's one I almost immediately thought, because, I go into things with expectations, and I'm frequently surprised. There was one a long time ago where we looked into if animals sleepwalk, right?
Yeah,
and I thought, slam dunk, of course there's going to be something on that. And I really fumbled around looking for anything.
Really?
I thought this was going to be like that. And it wasn't.
Oh, there's a lot of science on it?
There is, I wouldn't say a lot, but there is more research than I expected.
Yeah.
And it says interesting things. And also the implications of animals and whether or not they experience the placebo effect has, some greater implications that I want to talk about. But first, let's talk about the placebo effect. I think we all know what a placebo is, right? It's a sham treatment. It's an inactive pill or shot or some other therapy that mimics an actual therapy in how it's delivered, but it doesn't actually have the mechanisms, the pharmacological mechanisms to treat whatever it is that the actual medication would treat, right?
Yeah, it's a sugar pill or whatever.
Commonly, but there are sham injections, like saline instead of morphine or something like that. But the point is that it won't actually treat or cure whatever the medication would, right? If it's a placebo, it won't reduce, the size of a cancer tumor on its own, something like that. But it can still have impacts on how the patients feel, particularly when it comes to things like pain relief or nausea, side effects from chemotherapy, that sort of thing. Placebos seem to be actually quite effective at. And one thing that I think we should go into is why. Trace, do you know why placebos actually seem to have this effect?
Because our brain runs our body, I think, is how I tell myself. The brain is the central processor. So there are, distributed networks throughout the body, but generally speaking, the brain tells us what's going on. And so if the brain is I was in pain, I might still be, but I think I feel better. And then it becomes kind of like a cycle of, oh yeah, I guess I kind of do feel better. And then I am better.
Yeah, it basically boils down to that, right? As the overall reason. It might be especially if it's something perceptual like pain, nausea,
things that are a little less tangible.
Exactly. More subjective. But the actual way that placebos work, the mechanism that causes them to work, is still not really understood completely.
Yeah.
And there are idea is that, yes, we can basically have our brains trick ourselves, and it's because of expectations that we set, right? If we have positive expectations, people who are more optimistic tend to also be more receptive to the placebo effect. Or if we have a good relationship with our doctor, our healthcare provider, right? Like we talked about with children, how, the parent is the authority figure. And so if they say, well, I'm going to kiss it and make it better, you trust them so much that gives you that expectation that a kiss will make it better. And so, when they do it, you're like, great, I do feel better.
Even though it didn't actually do anything in that case. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or there's the rituals around receiving medical care, right? Like actually changing up your routine. So you're going into a doctor's office and getting a shot, or you're taking a pill regularly. These things can help reinforce these positive expectations, but then basically make our brains trick ourselves into thinking we're doing better.
Honestly, I've had personally that happen where I was like experiencing this pain. And so I was going to the doctor to get it checked out. And the doctor was like, I can't really seem to find what's happening, but let's, try this. Let's try this. Maybe you can get, a little PT, we'll see what's going on. And honestly, just going and seeing the doctor, and she was like, okay, so where is the pain? Where is it specifically? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's here, but it might be over here. And like, just, I was like forced to reckon with what it specifically was. And that changed my perception of the pain in the first place, I think. Because somebody with an education was like, it wasn't just me being like, I think it hurts here. And Flavia being like, where, dum-dum? And I'm like, over here. And she's like, okay, well, do you want a massage? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. But that was just nice,
Yeah.
But just like having to reckon with it, think about it, and see someone who's like, okay, well, try sitting different, Try moving more, try doing this. And just that having acknowledgement was enough for me to feel better.
It's funny because it's such a double-edged sword, where there are people, though, who have real pain. Mm-hmm. And, you and I, as men, our pains and our medical issues are taken more seriously than women, right?
Yes.
And so...
And as men who are light-skinned, even also, like, there are men who also have it less taken seriously, but not light-skinned ones,
right?
Typically in the U.S.
If you are, a person of color, or if you're a woman, or any of the other like wonderful panoply of different options that there are, and you go and see a doctor, there's tons of research that supports that these people do not have their pain taken as seriously. And so they might have actual issues, and a doctor will say, well, where does it really hurt? What's going on with you?
Yeah,
and
like, does it really, you're going to be fine, though? Like, really?
Does it? You're okay. Gaslighting doctors.
Gaslighting
toddler doctors.
Oh, gaslighting toddler doctors.
Yeah, I could see how, on the one hand, like having a medical professional say, like, you're fine. If you maybe are experiencing some non-serious pain, you're like, oh, maybe I am fine. But on the other hand, if you actually are in a lot of pain because you have a serious underlying issue, and your doctor goes, you're fine, that could be a problem.
That could be a problem.
Anyway, but let's get back to talking about how this all relates to animals, right? A lot of these things that seem to trigger the placebo effect are rooted in expectations, or, actual trust in the caregiver, or these rituals of care. And how do animals have any concept of any of those things?
Oh, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, how does a dog know what a drug is?
Right. The dog might not know that it's even getting, that might be traumatic, but they're like, oh, I'm getting peanut butter.
Yeah. Or like the rituals of care. Like when I take my dog to the vet, it's just down the street from me. I walk her to it, and as soon as we're a block away and she knows we're going to the vet, she freaks. She does not want to go to the vet, which makes me think this ritual of care is not actually helping her, right?
No,
like that
not.
Alone is not putting her at ease and making her think, I'm going to get better. It's like, oh no, the scary place where they poke me.
I had a cat that was like that. Just scream.
Yeah.
Scream.
Yeah, so I don't think the placebo effect just from the caregiving is going to work on that cat or my dog. So is this a thing? And right away I was like, well, then no, it can't be, right?
Right.
But there is research that under the right conditions, you can cause a placebo effect in animals.
Tell me more.
Okay. And by the way, this is important because, as you recall, a lot of pharmaceutical drug testing, a key step in it actually, getting tested for efficacy and eventually approved is testing on animals, right?
Yeah.
We usually
Yes.
do in vitro studies, like in glass is what that literally means. And then we do in vivo, which is in a living organism like a rat, before we go to human trials and eventually approval. So if animals might experience a placebo effect, it would be good to know that for when we're doing these studies to actually see if the drug is having any sort of positive impact or if placebo would be just as effective and therefore the drug isn't really effective. So I found a 2012 study in the journal Pain where they took 19 rats and they trained them to expose their faces to a heat source that wouldn't really hurt them, but it was uncomfortable.
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
And if they did this, they would get a treat.
Ah. Yeah. Classic behavioral.
Yes. And so they train all these rats and then they started injecting some of them with morphine and the rest of them with saline.
Oh, interesting.
And the morphine is a painkiller. So
Right.
when they expose their faces to this heat source, the thinking is the morphine will make it not hurt so much. And what they did see was that these rats were more inclined to expose their faces to the heat and get the little treat.
Because they weren't feeling it as much or whatever. Yeah.
So that's actually working, right? The treatment group is getting the morphine.
Right.
The control group that's getting a saline injection, do you think it worked or not?
You know, I feel like because of the context, it worked. But like if you had asked me outside of this, if you were just out somewhere and you're like, hey, Trace, do you think that rats, if we did this, I'd say no.
Well,
I wouldn't think it would work.
Yeah, no, that's the correct answer. That didn't work. They were getting saline. It didn't change how they perceived pain.
Yeah.
And so they did not want to expose their faces to as much heat. They didn't get treats as often.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the actual placebo effect part comes in.
Okay.
They started giving the rats that were getting the morphine a saline injection instead.
So they weren't actually getting the painkiller.
What do you think happened?
I think they exposed their faces to the heat just as often to get the treats.
That's correct.
Because they felt like they had gotten the morphine, or maybe I don't want to personify them, they're rats, but because they were like, oh, well, I got the poke, and last time I got the poke, I did the heat, and then I did the heat and I got my treat. So I'm just going to do my heat.
They had been conditioned that when they get an injection, that would reduce their pain and then they'd be able to withstand more heat. So even though they were getting saline now, they were like, oh, well, I got my jab. I should be able to withstand that heat more and get my little treat, and it's fine. And so, yes, they still continued exposing themselves to this heat, even though they weren't getting the... So that is an example of the placebo effect, but they were conditioned to get it. And the ones that were getting the placebo all along didn't change their behavior.
Interesting. That's very cool.
Yes. So you can condition animals to do it, but I also don't think that's really what Trevor's getting at, right? Because if you were on the placebo the whole time and not changing, well, then they're not really, experiencing the placebo effect in the way Trevor asked, where like, oh, animals have always been susceptible to it.
Yeah. Also, animals don't critically think. The animal isn't thinking, oh, I got a jab. Now I have to go and expose my face to the heat for 5 minutes and then I'll get a treat. Right. They're just going over there and maybe they are feeling more heat than they would have, right? Maybe they're not pain-free, but they're like, I need to hold on for as long as I can. We can't know what's going on in their heads.
We can't. That is
We can
tough.
only know what they do.
And that will be important later, actually.
Oh, okay.
So put a pin in that.
Pinned.
Still, I found other studies that looked into the placebo effect with medications. Like, for example, I found a meta-analysis from 2010 where they looked at 3 placebo-controlled canine epilepsy trials. So these were dogs that experienced seizures.
Yeah.
And in these 3
doggos.
different studies, some of the dogs were given placebos and the rest were given the treatment. And sometimes they'd cross over and sometimes they wouldn't, right? They'd start in the treatment group and then they'd switch to the control or vice versa. 2 of them, they did that. 1 of them, they didn't. Anyway, in these 3 studies combined, 22 of the 28 dogs, so that's 79% of the dogs that received the placebo, demonstrated a decrease in seizure frequency compared with baseline. 8 of those dogs actually had more than a 50% reduction in seizures when they were getting the placebo. So they concluded, these dogs are feeling the placebo effect.
Yeah.
Which shocked me. Until I found a more recent study from 2024 that said, we don't think that these studies were done very well. We're going to try more control.
That makes more sense.
They're going to do crossover with all the dogs. So half the dogs would be in the control group, half the dogs would be getting a treatment, and then they'd switch. But in between switching, they did a washout period where, they changed the routine again. They stopped giving them anything, and then they resumed giving them something, whether it was the drug or the placebo, to actually see if the dogs had fewer seizures when they were on the placebo, and they didn't. Actually, they had more seizures when they were on the placebo. 2.9 per month compared to 2.3 when they weren't on any sort of treatment or placebo.
That's not good.
No.
Doggos.
No. So for this other more recent study that a lot of it talks about, hey, we need to be careful about how we do these studies, even with, animals, they concluded that the placebo effect for these dogs on epilepsy treatments wasn't really a thing. But
interesting.
There is an important other way that the placebo effect might come into play when we're talking specifically about animals.
Okay.
And this has to do with what you talked about of we don't know what we're thinking.
Right. We don't know what's going on in their heads.
And another thing you said where you were like, I don't want to personify them, right? Or I don't want to put my emotions on them.
Right.
But that's what we tend to do a lot.
Yes, we do.
And so there's something called the caregiver placebo effect.
Oh, what's that?
That is where we, as caregivers of animals, want the treatment to work. We have the expectation that it will work. And so we imagine that the animal is improving even when it isn't.
Oh, so we're like, oh, my, cat or my lizard or my snake or whatever is getting better. Because I'm feeding them the pill that is very difficult for me to feed them. And it's like I'm going through this rigmarole and I want them to get better. So I'm like looking for anything that, they seem to be moving more. They seem to be moving more. My snake seems to be moving a lot more. And that they must be getting better.
Exactly. So I found a 2012 study on dogs with osteoarthritis, right? They had joint pain and it was affecting their walk. So they were in the, medical veterinary sense, lame, right? They had lameness. And they were either given a treatment or a placebo. And the caregivers would be asked, are they improving? But they would also measure the dog's gait, like how much force they could generate with each leg, right? And evaluate objectively if the dogs were, able to apply more force with their legs and their gait was improving. And they found that owners of dogs in the placebo group reported that they improved almost 40% of the time. And even their vets reported that they had improved about 45% of the time. So even trained medical professionals who thought that these dogs were getting a treatment, even when they were on the placebo, they thought that their gait was improving when the objective measurements of the dog's actual joint movement and ability were not showing improvement.
Oh, man. So if you just looked at the numbers and were not connected to the dog at all, you'd be like, this dog is the same as before. But if you were like somehow emotionally involved with the dog, whether you're the caregiver or the owner or whatever. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then you want the dog to get better. Yeah. I found another study from 2014 where they did something similar with cats. They had all these cats with osteoarthritis. They gave all of them the placebo treatment at first, and all the owners reported no difference. But the owners all knew that it was a placebo. Then they switched and they put half of them on a treatment and half of them continued on the placebo, but they didn't tell the owners which group they were in. And all of the owners reported an improvement. All of them.
Wow. And objectively, was there an improvement?
On the ones that were getting treatment, yes, but not on the ones that were still on the placebo. And then they switched it again, and they put all of them back on the placebo without telling the owners that a switch had occurred. And the ones that had been getting a placebo the whole time were like, yeah, they've been doing better since they switched, the first time, that as far as they know, the only time. Whereas the ones that were on the treatment and then switched back to the placebo reported that they were not doing well again because they actually saw.
Oh, they saw them deteriorating.
Exactly.
In whatever, way that they
Exactly. So this has interesting implications when it comes to things like homeopathic medicine.
Yes.
There are a ton of treatments out there for pets that are like, veterinary medicine doesn't know what it's talking about, but if you give your dog this chew or this, I don't know, fluffy coat or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You'll see improvements.
This very fancy food that you have to keep in the fridge.
And because the animal has no way of really communicating with us, like if they've changed, if they're feeling any better. The caregiver placebo effect can really shape our perception of whether or not it's working.
Yeah.
Right. And we might look at our dog or cat and we so badly want them to be doing better that we say like, hey, yeah, they're doing better. But in reality, they're not.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an important thing to be aware of. It's also kind of a method used by charlatans to prop up these remedies, right? They might say, well, animals have no concept of the placebo effect, and all these animal owners report that this worked when they tried it, therefore it must work. Therefore you should try it too. Or you should try it on your dog, on yourself, or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it was an area that I hadn't even heard of, this caregiver placebo effect. But once I started reading about it, I was like, this makes a ton of sense to me. And it's like, okay, new thing to be aware of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost sad to be aware of it too, though, because if your dog isn't going to get any better or your pet isn't going to get any better, even with treatment necessarily, but you want them to get better so badly. Now I'm going to be like, are they getting better? Is it the same? Where's my objective measurement?
Right.
It's a little bit of like a placebo by proxy,
exactly.
Right? I'm like placeboing on their behalf.
Yeah.
But knowing that you could be placeboing, I don't, you could, it still works. The placebo effect works even if you know it exists, but it still makes me a little sad.
Now,
a little bit sad.
I'm going to end that on a less sad note, though. And that is that giving your pet attention and cuddles and smooches and whatnot may still have a positive beneficial effect, right?
Positive benefit?
It's like we talk about with the placebos can't actually treat the underlying issue. But it's been shown that, when we have an animal that we love and we have a good relationship with, frequently, if we give them attention and pets and hugs and cuddles, it can reduce their heart rate, reduce their blood pressure, things that indicate a reduction in stress in the animal. So,
yeah, releases the same hormone we talked about in my answer earlier, that oxytocin kind of bonding and soothing hormone. It does a lot of things, but that's one of the things it's known to do.
So even if, you are now aware of this caregiver placebo effect and you're like, oh, I don't know if they're actually getting better, just that act of giving care in and of itself may be beneficial to some degree, and I think that's a bit comforting.
That is nice. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say recently for my wife's graduation, she wanted to go to an animal rescue barn that's quite famous. I will not name it, but when we were taking the tour, they talked about all these treatments they give the animals. And some of them are things that I doubt the efficacy of, acupuncture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so part of me now is wondering, like, how much of it is these people who love these animals thinking they're improving? And then how much of it is, like we talked about, just the act of giving them attention that's helping them? Even if, I don't know if poking them with a needle would necessarily help.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, all the love and cuddles and smooches, maybe that is helping.
Love and cuddles and smooches. I think that would be the first single of
Gaslighting Toddlers.
Gaslighting Toddler Doctors. Love and cuddles and smooches.
Love, cuddles, smooches. Parentheses, you're better now.
Wow. Well, thanks for answering that Trevor question from our Patreon poll.
Yeah.
Julian, that's really interesting. I never really thought about that. That's cool.
Thanks for asking, Trevor.
And thank you for listening out there in the listenerverse. That's Absurd, Please Elaborate is a great show that we're really happy to do, and we do it for you, the listener. So
we're gaslighting listeners. It's a great show.
It's excellent. And if you really want us to feel better, you should continue to support the show, however it is that you're doing that. Because, look, come on, you're the caregiver, and we are the tiny little shaking chihuahua. I think we can all agree. This show was created and written and produced by that guy over there, Julian Huguet.
Huguet, thank you. That's my
sorry. Yes, my bad. I apologize.
My smoochin' nickname. And that guy over there, Trace Drip Minguez.
Drip Minguez. Honestly, that's pretty cool. And today's show was produced and edited by the wonderful and definitely also wet Kyle Sisk.
Kyle the Hose Sisk is
the hose. That sounds
the hose.
Good thing we had that content warning at the beginning.
Also, our website and social media and a lot of little things behind the scenes are now handled by our associate producer, Sabrina Capello.
And our music is thanks to Epidemic Sound.
Thanks to listeners who submitted questions featured in this episode, Jenn R. and Trevor. And again, thanks to our Patreon subscribers who selected Trevor's question. If you want to join our Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/that'sabsurdshow. And if you're there, you can vote on our questions that we put up. We have so many good ones, we had to outsource it to you. And also, you get special thanks at the end of episodes if you're some of our top subscribers, like our absurd administrators, Adam, Les, Austin, Pinky, Jonathan, and Evan. Welcome, Evan.
Yay, Evan, thanks for joining.
Also, we've got some happy anniversary shout-outs for ridiculous researchers like Theo, who's at their 3-month mark, and
Nice.
new Patreon subscribers, Matasees and Hal. Wow, it's getting busy over there.
Wow, that's great. This is awesome. Thank you, everyone who has joined our Patreon. If you just want to submit a question, maybe you want to support the show that way, because we can't do this show without your questions, there are so many different ways to send them to us. You can email us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. You can go to our website, that'sabsurdshow.com, and click Ask a Question. You can call us at 302-TAPE-SHOW, and Sabrina will take your voicemail and transcribe it into our database. It's pretty awesome, so that we can pick from those questions too. Again, we can't do this without you, so thank you to everyone who submits questions. There are so many good ones, and we are so excited to have guests and people come on. If you want to recommend a guest for the show, maybe you know somebody who would be good for the show, you can send us an email about that too. We like any and all emails that we get from you, the audience. Also, leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. If you haven't left us one, that's fine. But if you want to, we would love for you to leave us a review. Again, we are the shuddering, chilled chihuahua of your caregiving podcast life, and we need a little buffalo check sweater that maybe one that's covered in stars. If you really like the show, like a little 5-star.
Oh.
Maybe one, you know what I'm saying?
5-star sweet or just
Yeah.
sweet. And if you haven't already, our faces now, if you want to see them while we're talking about these things, we made a YouTube channel. Just click the link in our...
Just click on it.
And lastly, special thanks to those of you listening on Nebula. Nebula listeners get access to ad-free versions of episodes, and they support us and other awesome creators. We bring this up all the time. We love Nebula and the people on it. They make really cool stuff that Trace and I constantly consume and enjoy ourselves. So by joining, you're supporting us and you're supporting them. And you might find other wonderful shows that you like in video and audio format.
I was just watching Patrick Willems put out a thing about documents movies, and I love documents movies, but I didn't have words to describe what they are. You know what a documents movie is. Aaron Brockovich, documents movie.
Oh.
All the President's Men, documents movie. It's a movie where the main things that's going on is research, and I'm like, oh, them movies is my jam.
I feel like those are already courtroom dramas. I feel like
sometimes they have courts, and All the President's Men doesn't really have a courtroom. It's just like
does it
5-minute shot of...
Does it? You can't handle the truth?
No, you're thinking of the other one.
A Few
All
Good
the President's Men is about All the President's Men is about Nixon and Bob Woodward. And,
you're right.
Whoops. Like there's a 5-minute scene of one half of a phone conversation of Robert Redford calling people to get answers because he's a journalist.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. Good thing I don't
Documents
host
movie.
a podcast about movies like our friend
Matt Kroll.
The
only podcast about movies. Anyway, that's on Nebula. It was excellent. I really enjoyed it. I watched the whole thing and loved it. So, highly recommend. But, as we say at the end of every episode of our show, our catchphrase, our really commonly said, and everyone knows it, catchphrase. Julian, what is it?
Sorry about all the tongue. That was from 2007 behind the gym. She probably doesn't listen to the podcast. I haven't talked to her in, 15 years. Probably be inappropriate since I'm married, but if she ever finds it was too much. You're right. I did not convey my fitness as a partner very well.
I'm sorry for all the tongue. I didn't know that you had new braces, and now we're stuck together.
My tongue is bleeding. Kiss it, make it better.
The act of kissing, it'll make me feel better, even if it's just oxytocin. Yeah, I think we can make this work.
Yeah. There's a song in there.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week with another episode.